All right, how's it going, my family members? Welcome back to another episode of Pegasus is my guinea pig. I'm your host, Guinea Peg. What's been going on recently? Well, our family member Chrrr, okay, he left me a thread over here and said, Peg, what's up with the CelluCotton? He's been bugging me about this thing, and it's like, telling me about CelluCotton. What is all this hype that I'm hearing on CelluCotton? Let's all thank Chur for bringing this to our attention. Thank you very much. Clappy clap. And I went ahead and I followed through. So clicking on this link over here takes us over to Reddit, right? And then there's a lot of buzz about CelluCotton and what it is and blah, 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 blah. So if you scroll all the way down, there is really a lot of buzz, a lot of noise about this. So let's get a little bit further and let's just go ahead and Google what CelluCotton and where we could go ahead and get some. So first link over here outside of Amazon is Sally Beauty. Luckily, the wife has a Sally Beauty card, and there's one right around my way. So looked up Sally Beauty and all its locations, blah, whatever. So bam, here is the price of it. It is $10.99 for a club card price, and if you buy it online, it is about $11.99 in store. So I picked it up in the store, and with me over here is the whole box of this stuff. Now, this stuff you get a lot. Okay, I didn't see like a smaller box or anything like that. It's just once you buy it, 500 feet right away. Okay, so what is this stuff normally for, right? Normally it's kind of like for it's in beauty supply stores. You go to a beauty salon when women, they have their heads in the curlers, and then that rice cooker. No, I'm just kidding, guys. When the steamer comes down, and then they're steaming, either like they're doing some kind of oil treatment or sometimes even dyeing their hair, whatever it is. Okay, the CelluCotton is to wrap along the forehead on top, and then over from the back, so that all the steam, sweat, heat, chemicals, whatever, doesn't come down into your face and into your eyes. Yeah, okay. And this thing, unlike our average cotton and the cotton balls where we can unravel, where we just get like a small portion or whatever, the whole thing is connected. So basically when you open this thing up, it's like a bag of snakes, right? Because the whole thing is just long. That way, when they use it at the beauty salon, it's just all connected, okay? Instead of like trying to piece them together. All right, so let's duck down and have a closer look at this thing, and we will talk about it. All right, so here's the up close cam of the two samples in front of you. Okay, can you tell which one is the CelluCotton and which one is the regular cotton? Well, it's kind of blurry actually, so I intentionally did that, and let's make it a little more sharper. Okay, now with that focus, all right, let's bring it closer to the cam over here, and now can you tell which one's which? All right, so this one is going to be the CelluCotton, and then this was the regular cotton. Okay, there's a couple of other videos talking about this stuff, right? And let's get one thing straight first, okay? Let's stop calling it cotton, because what it really is just rayon, okay? And for some of you guys out there who have no idea what rayon is fake silk, okay? Every time like you see a silk shirt or whatever, right? If it's not real silk, it's rayon. That's what it normally is, okay? So man-made fibers, real fibers. So what is the biggest difference between this? Okay, now watching a couple of other videos, somebody did mention that like the one thing that they really liked about this thing is that like all the fibers are more generally going in the same direction. Now I had no idea what that meant at first, because it's like, what are you talking about? This way, this way, this way? Like what are we talking about? So after further inspection, I finally got what he meant. Regular cotton is basically just fibers bunched up, and it's really actually very uneven. It seems even right here because it's all like packed together, but it's actually very uneven, and the fibers are going in all sorts of directions, while fibers in this one, because it's put out in one continuous strand, everything is running parallel to each other. So when he says same direction, actually he means like the fibers here are more parallel than the fibers over here. Another thing is that there's always like little dots, little pieces. Okay, let me try to get this closer into the camera. There's always like little knots, little pieces, little, it's like impurities. Actually, it's not that it's an impurity. It's more like an inconsistency. Okay, so they're not like, all right. And then the last thing is that fluffiness. Fluffiness is completely different. See, on a real cotton over here, what I have in my hands right now, okay, is like you ever notice that like when you take it apart and you're trying to use it, you're always fluffing it. You're always trying to like, oh, let's get it all nice and fluffy. Let's fluff it and use it so that like what is it because less is more and blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, screw that. Okay, those days are over because this thing is fluffy on its own. So the first thing that I really noticed this about this, right, other than like it's hard to tell on camera that the CelluCotton, this Rayon stuff, is a little bit whiter than the cotton stuff, just a little bit, okay? And when you take it out, it just seems pure and cleaner, okay, as opposed to like, you know, all the mixed things in here. Okay, but other than that, right, the first thing that I noticed as a builder, as you know, obviously we're going to use this thing for wicks and nothing else. So the first thing that I noticed is that it really, really, truly feels as if this thing is going to be able to hold more juice per fiber density as opposed to regular cotton. Okay, and that was basically the theory, right? So in order to go ahead and like do this experiment, okay, I decided to go ahead and put it in all sorts of stuff. Okay, I decided to go ahead and put it into a K-fun. I've also put it into a fogger. I've also put it into a dripper. I've even went as far as to put it in like, you know, a smaller device, kind of like an EVOD, and then I worked it into the coil of this thing. Okay, and I'm not gonna lie, folks. I was a little bit skeptical at first, you know, but like still try to keep an open mind, and it did surprise me, and it did do certain things that I did not expect it to do. Okay, now, if you've ever seen my anti-gurgle rebuild coil of the Kanger Pro Tank and stuff like that, okay, normally what happens is that let's say we would take a screwdriver and then we would build a coil around the screwdriver, right? And then you go ahead and then you thread this thing into a micro coil. And then what happens is that I would put a piece of cotton on top, and then I would put a piece of cotton on the bottom of the coil at the same time, and then reinstall it back into a Kanger device. Okay, I've noticed that with this thing, I didn't need to do that anymore. I could just build a coil, shove this in, and then put it all together, and then it's good to go, as long as the size was correct. Another thing that was very interesting, right, is that basically every time I've taught you guys that, like, okay, when we thread this thing, if you use the zero screwdriver on precision screwdrivers, right? Let's say like we have all sorts of screwdrivers over here, right? Whether you use the 1.4 or the 2.0 or the 0 or the 1 or whatever, depending on the different size of screwdrivers or whatever, I always told you exactly how much cotton that you should use. Like for instance, if you went ahead and then built like a macro coil or something like that with the larger screwdriver, the number 1 over here, right? You could go ahead and on regular cotton, go ahead and then just rip this thing in half and then twist this up. It would be perfectly the size of this, okay? But now with the new CelluCotton, this thing is so bouncy, right? And fluffy like on its own that basically it's going to change all of my recipes. Basically, all of my recipes are completely different in the sense that like you will always, always, always use less of this stuff as compared to what you used to use in the cotton. All right. Now you will see other things out there like, you know, ceramic wicks and then bio wicks, and then like you remember like people used to use like silica, eco wool and things like that. Okay, well the thing that I don't like about those is that those things are fashioned so much like a rope that sometimes when you need a wick that you need to stuff. Like for instance, if you had a dripper that you had juice wells, and then you would just like go ahead and stuff it into the juice wells. If you had like a K-fun or something like that, you know, sometimes after you thread your K-fun, you just want to like stuff it down into the sides, and then that's it. You need the head to be fat. Also, do you remember the build on the Chiyu AIOS over here? I did like a Sideshow Bob method where, you know, we needed this thing to be like nice and big and fluffy, and then the bottom needed to be small, kind of like a bouquet, like this, right? You wouldn't be able to do that with like BioWicks and other types of let's say cotton yarn, or the eco wool and stuff like that. Okay, you would not be able to do this. Lastly, right? Do you remember like different kinds of dripper setups, especially the items like the AGA T6? Okay, where it's like an upside down Genesis, and then we had to go ahead and then build different setups inside. Like over here, I have a steam turbine, and we're going to go ahead and then do an auto dripper setup inside so that basically the wicks look like this. Okay, now these wicks over here, in many of my other tutorials, okay, I've showed you the cotton club wedge setup, which is basically you take something like, you know, a carpeted piece of cotton, and then with our scissors, we wouldn't cut it straight in half this way, but we will cut it diagonally, so that it's kind of like forms two wedges. This way it's thinner at the bottom and thicker on the top, so that when things wick, we want the liquid to drop all the way and then stop at the tip. So you know what I mean? So this is exactly what I mean at wicking at its finest art form. Right. So again, this is why this would be much more preferable as a wick device, as opposed to cotton yarn, bio wicks, ceramic wicks, and eco wool, because it's not ropish. We could make it ropish, and we could make it into other shapes as well. So this is definitely something I would say much preferred over anything else at the moment. Okay, so let's come back, and then let me tell you about like some of the results that I had. Okay, so we're back. Now I'm going to talk about like the different kinds of devices that I went ahead and I put these things in. Okay, I put it in a dripper. I put it in a newbie tank. Okay, I put it in a K-fun, and then I went ahead and I put it in the new fogger. Okay, and let me tell you what the results basically were. Right. Let's start off with the most popular K-fun first, because I know everybody, you know, out there mostly owns K-fun. So the taste was cleaner than your average cotton or silica, or meaning that, like, you know, it was invisible. You know what I mean? It was the first thing that I would, you know, after a couple of builds and stuff like that, that like time after time after time, it's like it's not there. You know what I mean? Like all you taste is just the juice, and that's exactly what we want. A wick that has no taste whatsoever. Okay, and that's what it did basically for the K-fun. As far as wicking and clouds and performance and whatever, I'll be honest with you guys, the K-fun is already a very, very balanced device for its juice channels, its coil setup, where it is, you know, the deck, the chimney, blah, 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 whatever, its production. Like, there was not much difference in that, because the device itself is already very optimal. You know what I mean? And that's basically the truth of it. Okay, so the fogger. The fogger was very interesting. Okay, do you remember? Okay, the V4 Plus fogger. Okay, you cannot build it like an Aqua. You must build it like a K-fun, right? Which means that, like, when you wick this thing, it has to just stuff and then block the juice channels, and then it'll wick that way, as opposed to an Aqua, where we just go ahead and build wicks into the juice channels, right? All right. So earlier, what I said about this thing was that, like, you could use less fibers to hold more juice, and therefore you could use less wick to wick this thing. So I was thinking that, like, okay, so if that is the case, can I go ahead and then, you know, just use like a reasonable amount of fibers, and then just go ahead and put it into this juice channel, and then build it as if like the V4 Plus was kind of like an Aqua, and then it would still work? The answer is actually yes, it would still work. So cotton, you wouldn't be able to do this, because cotton's wicking action is a little bit slower than this. The wicking action of this thing, right, is much better than cotton, and it uses less fiber, so it's not so much obstructing the path You know what I mean? I would still recommend that you guys go ahead and build it the same way as a K-Fun, because I know many of you guys like to crank your DNAs and your other devices all the way up to 20 watts if possible. But what I want to show you over here, okay, is my DNA, and this is only 10 watts, okay? So those of you who always said that I don't vape on camera, okay, these are the one times that I'm actually going to go ahead and vape on camera, only because it's necessary. We're proving a point, so we're going to vape on camera, okay? So 10 watts, just 10 watts, okay? Is that big? 10 watts for 10 freaking watts, right? It's not bad. This thing can wick, you know, and if we decided to, you know, turn this up to like 16 watts, 17 watts, or whatever, I'm not going to go ahead and vape that, because the only thing is that, like, can the wicking action keep up with the heat? And actually, yes, it can. All the way up to like 16, 17 watts, not all the way up to 20. Once you go up the way up to 20, then you need to go back to that like K-Fun build again. But what was very interesting again was that, like, now you could shove fibers into the juice channel, and then, you know, it will still go ahead and wick, which says to me that, like, the wicking action of Rayon exceeds cotton. By how much percent, that's like another scientific thing. But is the wicking action better than cotton? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so here's the one that was really shocking. Okay, this is going to be really funny because, you know, seeing Peg with like an EVOD device. All right, so this is the newer EVODs. This is the glass EVOD. Okay. So you could hear that. The glass EVODs also allow for removable drip tips, so that you could go ahead and put in your own drip tip, right? And because the coil is now like a dual coil setup, there's a lot more room inside these chimneys now. So what happened is that, like, I decided to rip this thing open and then, you know, just put in a heavy coil and a heavy wick inside with the Rayon stuff, as opposed to like with cotton or whatever, that, you know, cotton is kind of restrictive sometimes. Okay, so to show you guys over here, right, I went ahead and I built something with a 28 gauge Canthal. There's a lot of wraps in there, so like the atomizer is reading at 1.2. Okay, so you guys know for a fact that, like, you know, Kanger does not make anything at 1.2. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and vape on this thing real quick, and let me show you the performance of it. Okay, so is that shocking for a little, for a clearomizer? Like a clearomizer should not perform this well. You know what I mean? Of course, it's not performing as well as an actual RDA or a Genesis device, but it's close. It's getting there, and that it's of course is all the work of like the coil or whatever. But the point is that, like, had I used regular cotton or whatever, right, the wicking action would not be able to keep up with the heat of this 1.2 coil in such a small chamber. That is the problem. But because the wicking action of this thing, right, is able to keep up with it to almost the point where, like, I would say it's 80% close to priming your wicks, you know? And I don't want to offend too many people out there, but like for a tank person who, for all you tank guys out there who are like, you know, building the coil is only half of the story. Wicking is the other half of the story, you know what I mean? Because building a badass coil is not going to do anything but give you a dry hit if you don't build an excellent wick for it, and you know, understand, like, you know, having the juice match up with the heat. So priming wicks is kind of, in that sense, it's kind of cheating, you know what I mean? Because you just go ahead and manually feeding when you're supposed to really let gravity take its course, and so that if you build the right coil and wick together, then it's supposed to like perform so well, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that was that. Okay, so last thing that I want to do, okay, is show you the guys the dripper setup. All right, let me get a device real quick over here so that, like, I could take off the cap for you guys. And It's very difficult to show on camera, so we're going to have to duck down again, and we're going to have to do this one more time. So this video is going to be a little bit longer than it should be, but it's going to prove a lot of like educational things. Okay, so I have a Pisces build in here. Recently, I saw a new video over at Rockstar Vapes. Rockstar Vapes is actually Josh. Josh is one of our family members, actually. So he put out a quick Wicking build video that I thought was pretty charming, and I saw it, and I feel as if like what would have been better is to combine that thing along with my Pisces step. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and once you see it on camera, you'll see why we are doing this. Okay, I'll explain that as we go along. So let's come back to it real quick. All right, guys. So fun time again. So here we go. I've purposely took a longer strand of the Rayon cotton over here. Okay, so let's set that aside, and let me talk about this build real quick. So this is the Pisces setup. Okay, what is the Pisces setup? If you've seen it in like other videos, and some of you have already mastered the setup, basically you wick the cotton this way. Okay, and then when you pull it around, what happens is that you take the rest of your cotton and then you thread it back in between the posts over here so that it hits the back of the other coil. You see what I'm saying? So what happens is that like now you have juice covering 3 sides of your coil: the back, the bottom, and the sides. Okay, and then so that you know, just the face over here is open for the window on your drilled holes. Okay, what else is excellent about this setup, okay, is that if you look down at it, right, we don't put cotton anywhere there isn't any coil. Okay, so best part about it is this: you will have a little bit of room of open deck over here and a little bit of room of open deck over here, right? So that when you drip down into the Pisces setup is so that, like, you know, once you start getting a little bit of juice over here, you know you're up. You know you've just hit oversaturation. So you know, it gives you a little signal of like, you know, it's time to stop. All right. So what are we going to do over here? Okay, we're going to go ahead and then take some of our CelluCotton over here, okay, and let me show you like how little you need, right? Because normally I would always tell you guys, all right, take your carpet, rip it in half, blah, 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 rip it in half again, and then we're going to use a quarter strip, right? We're not going to do that this time, okay? I actually have to kind of do this by eye, and then I'm thinking this thing is probably like what, like an 1/8 or like a 1/9 of a strip of the CelluCotton, right? I should really stop saying CelluCotton because I'm trying to teach you guys that it's called Rayon. Anyways, all right, so bam, look at this, all right, and it stays fluffy. It stays fluffy and springy in your hands, like you could push it down, like I could try to smush it, you know, but if it comes back, it keeps coming back, right? All right, so this is the thread method over that I saw in Josh's video. Now, Josh got this this threading method from another guy over at Vape Sheriff's video, but I felt as if Josh got to the point a lot faster. So I kind of like that video a little bit better. Anyways, so the point is to go ahead and thread one coil first, okay? So we're working on a Valkyrie over here, and then bring it over like so, like this. Okay, once we get up to this point over here, then we're just going to cross over the middle post, right? And then we're going to thread on through this coil over here. Okay. All right. Let's hopefully we get through this smoothly, so I don't look stupid on camera. Ha 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 ha. Okay, so there you go, right? So you can see over here that like I hardly have any cotton compared to your average cotton setups. Okay, so I felt as if like what would be really cool is to integrate my my Pisces setup for the bottom of this portion, right? Which is we thread this part through over here, and then maybe we just leave a little bit out, and then we chop it off over here. Then we turn this one around, right? And we do the same thing with the flathead like this. Okay. And then we just leave a little bit out over here. So the portion that's out over here, right,
I'm going to go ahead and use my flathead to tuck it on through so that it gets the back of the opposite coil. So same thing, tuck it on through and then go to the other coil. Okay, so now what happens here? It creates that bridge so that, like, you know, all you have to do is remove, you don't have to remove the whole top cap to prime this thing. All you do is just remove the drip tip, and then it'll hit over here and then get down to both sides. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, and from this point on, we're gonna go, gonna put a little bit of juice on it. Now, keep in mind, right, that because this thing is not cotton, so at first it will repel juice. Okay, so be patient with it, right? Give it a second. Give it a second. Do not just drip juice on it and whatever. It's going to slide off immediately. So what you want to do is that you want to go ahead and then put a drop over here and then let it sink in. The moment it begins to sink in, then it's going to be a good boy, and then it's going to start doing like everything that you want it to do. If you just go ahead and then put a drop, it'll just glide off immediately. Okay, so careful with that. At first, go easy, and then start to, you know, saturate. So I want you to go ahead and basically, you know, just by eye, right? Watch how much juice that I put on this thing, how much it can hold with so little of cotton. That's what makes this really interesting. A few fibers can hold a lot more juice. So what is that saying? It's saying that, like, you know, probably going to get a lot more hits out of this thing. And every single hit that we get is probably going to be a lot cleaner because we're vaping a lot more juice than not juice. So, all right. So now this thing is like all nice and moist, right? Okay. Go ahead and whoops. Here we go. And then take off the thing, and hopefully I don't sting myself with piping hot juice.
Okay, so that is what is built into this Valkyrie now, and sorry guys, you know, I normally don't vape so much on camera, but that is what I don't want to do is like keep going and going and going, because the point is that, like, little bit of fiber holds a lot of juice, many hits before you have to resaturate again, before you have to, you know, reprime your wicks. Yeah, so there's a lot of benefits to this thing. And do I stand behind it? Shockingly, yeah, I do stand behind it. I wouldn't say that, like, you know, this thing is going to be like mind-blowing and whatever, okay? But yeah, definitely this is I think this is the new wick. This is the new way to go, all right? And it's going to be able to wick things a lot better than cotton before. You know what I mean? So for a lot of you guys out there who are like getting dry hits off of your tank systems and things like that, this might be the answer to it, seriously. So, okay. As usual, right, we always do things differently on this show, right? Very differently. So let's do something bold. Let's do something brave. Let's do something different, okay? I'm going to go ahead and put my money where my mouth is on this thing. And if you guys agree, we will do another video where I'm just going to go ahead and, like, you know, put out the formalities of it. Let's do this, okay? For all of you guys who want to try CelluCotton but don't want to go ahead and get a box of it, or for many of you guys who are unable to get a box of it or whatever but still would like a sample or something like that, how about we do this? You guys meet me halfway and then we'll do like a huge giveaway on this, okay? I'll go ahead and register a P.O. box with my local post office, right? And then you guys go ahead and mail me a self-addressed stamped envelope, okay? I don't want any money. I don't want anything like that. Just put your name, put some stamps on an envelope or whatever, and then just mail that over to me. I will cut you an 8-inch strip, which is plenty, actually, because you saw me earlier, like, you know, in order to, like, wick up a dripper, right, basically I only use like an 1/8 or a 1/9 of a strip or something like that, because the thing fights you. The thing is so springy or whatever. Once you put that thing, like, into the coil, right, it's going to tug back already. You know what I mean? So you don't need that much, and it holds a ton of juice. So yeah, this thing's a good boy. So if you guys are down for that, right, leave the comment in the box below, right, and we will go ahead and do that kind of giveaway. You know what I mean? I will go ahead and let's see how many comments that we get, right, and then I will go ahead and set up that PO box, and then you guys just, you know, mail me like empty envelopes, right, and I will fill them up for a limited time. You know what I mean? Like we'll do it for like 3 weeks or a month straight, and then, you know, like you get a piece, you get a piece, you get a piece. We'll just do that, and then, you know, you guys go ahead and all try it, make your own videos, talk about it, you know, let me know what you think, right? And if all goes well, if all really goes well, and then there's a lot of you who really like the stuff but still aren't able to get your hands on it, then remember we talked about, like, you know, having a standalone website, and then me possibly opening up like a Pegasus store, and then blah 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 whatever. Then maybe I'll add that to the web store, so that, like, you know, make that more accessible to the rest of you guys, because I'm already familiar with like all sorts of international shipping, right? So yeah, that's how Pegasus takes care of his own family, right? So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and let's try it out.